my dad was sort of my hero growing up. I found out as I grew older that he was a composer. You know, when I was a little kid, I don't think I knew what a composer was. And he wrote a really big song in America. I don't know if it's worldwide, but it's called Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company B. My mother told me that when I was a little kid, I used to sit on his lap when he was playing the piano. I don't remember that, but I know I always wanted to play the piano. So I started at 7, much like Brad, but I never wanted to be like a great piano player. I wanted to be a good enough piano player to write songs. That was my goal. I had a band I was in high school, and we used to play at like the high school dances, you know, like after a football game or something. After high school, I actually stopped playing music for a while because I went to college to study, you know, aerospace engineering, and I thought, well, if you're in college and you're busy, you don't have time to be in a band. So for 2 years, I put everything away, and then in 1974, I moved to Los Angeles. Well, since I'm in LA and this is where all the bands are, I should at least check out the scene. And I did, and these guys called me and said, we're looking for a keyboard player. And I said, well, what music do you do? Expecting to hear like names of other bands, and they go, we play all originals. And I went, this should be interesting. And so I joined that band, probably late 74, and they're still like my best friends. And in fact, we have a show coming up this September in Texas, you know, for like 15,000 people. So we still play. We put out 11 albums, and it was a really good learning experience. It taught me what I don't know, and it really made me want to be an engineer, because I would watch the guy twisting a knob, and he'd come over here and do this, and I'm like, what's he doing? You know? And so I would always stay late and ask questions, and that really made me eventually go back to college, and I took courses in, you know, the science of acoustics, in recording engineering, scoring for film. And the rest of it was just, as a lot of life can be, being in the right place at the right time. What it allowed me to do first was become the producer for the band. So when we'd go in the studio, everybody else would like leave, but I'm the guy that had the paper with all the songs, and I had, you know, like a spreadsheet. So it had one for, you know, drums, bass, guitar, keyboard, vocals, backgrounds, and, you know, I was like sort of, well, so when I'm producing and we're mixing, I'm going, the vocal's too loud. Well, now I know what to do. I go over there and I pull it down a little bit. So it got me started, but I did more producing first, and then the last couple albums that we did, I did the whole thing. You know, I co-wrote all the songs, I recorded all the songs, and then I mixed them. That way, when I got the call from Brad to come work for, you know, Michael Jackson, I knew more than I needed to know, which was really helpful. It's always good to know twice as much as you need to know for that particular job. Right. It was before the history tour. It was going to be an HBO special called One Night Only, and it never happened because Michael got sick. We rehearsed for, I want to say, 3 or 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden Michael just fell down on stage. But it was exciting. I learned a lot, and I got to see how things are done on a top level. On the history tour, my job was drum programming, and we use a lot of electronics on the drums, so the drums trigger sounds from the album. So when he hits the snare, it's actually triggering like the snare from Dangerous, not, you know, so you're not hearing his snare, you're hearing the snare from Dangerous, and the same thing with the kick. So I was really good with programming and electronics and stuff, so that was a piece of cake, you know. The funny thing is when they hired me, I had never changed a drum head in my life. you know? And so I go, I'm gonna have to change a drum head. And so I found that was easy. If you just pay attention to all the details, you know, listen to the drum, record it so you know the pitch of the drum. I don't talk about it much because for me, being a drum tech was like a couple steps down from where I already was, but I knew it was the beginning of something. I didn't really know what it would lead to, you know, but what it eventually led to was working directly with Michael and doing a lot of engineering, you know, for him. Sometimes it was just him and I, you know, like for days and days. So that's where it led to. It took a while to get there. It doesn't happen overnight. It led me to being the guy that did all the programming and running the playback for the tours, which meant I also got to do all the playback for all the TV shows that Michael was on. And after the history tour, Brad, literally like 3 days later, Brad had heard from Michael that they were going to start working on a new album, which would be Invincible. We started working that day. And now I'm helping Michael and Brad get Michael's ideas like recorded. Brad plays. I did a little bit of playing, but really Brad did 99% of the playing. And it was a wonderful experience, you know, just getting to start an album from day one. And then after maybe 2 or 3 months of working at Brad's house, because Brad had a nice studio, his house, he said, okay, we're going to, where do we start? Record One, which is a famous studio in LA. So we started at Record One, and we were there for, 2 months maybe. And then he goes, hey, we're going to the Hit Factory in New York. I went, cool, And it was about a 3-year process making that record. Beautiful studios, choirs, the best musicians in the world. The experience of working at a Michael Jackson level, both touring and in the studio, and at his ranch and wherever he wanted to record, I think just deepens your knowledge, because I think musicians, engineers, people that are more in the creative arts, I think you're always learning. You don't ever know it all, ever. There are always new little toys that are coming out, and you need to check some of them, not all of them out, because, if you've got everything working the way you want, let's say your video camera is like 8K and it's future-proof and everything's perfect and you've got great lenses, you don't have to go check out every new thing that comes out, but you sort of want to know what's coming your way, when things are going to change, because eventually everybody's going to have 8K televisions and then they'll start making 16K. Now I do almost everything inside the computer. I don't really use a lot of this outboard gear anymore because they finally sound good enough. We use Pro Tools 99% of the time. It's the most professional digital recording system out there. I always think I can do better. I think every person in the arts, you always look back at something, you go, I can do better than that now. I'd like to redo that song. I'd like to remix that song. I'd like to re-edit that video, because we're learning all the time. This was one of the first times that Brad and I have spoken to engineering students. And we were very proud that we were asked to do this master class. Even prouder when I found out it's associated with Abbey Road. And then I was blown away when I saw this beautiful room. I'd like to work in here. Most of the times we do seminars for Michael Jackson fans, and they want to know, how did you record this? They love hearing when we solo maybe background vocals, because, you know, if you just buy the record, you never get to hear things by themselves. You just hear the final product. And I love doing that. You know, I love it when sometimes I'll be on the internet and I'll find like Journey's background vocals for a song, and I go, oh man, it's even, you know, it's just like, it's like an extra little piece of candy, you know, in your bag. So it was wonderful talking to people who are studying and want to be engineers and producers. And I'm sure they're all creative people. A lot of them, we ask them, you know, how many of you are musicians or play an instrument? Half of them play an instrument. And it's a great tool for them to know how to engineer, because then they don't always have to hire somebody. And hopefully most of them will be inspired to go get a job. It doesn't pay a lot in the beginning at a studio. You'll be an assistant. You'll have to learn how to make coffee for the producer and for the engineer, and you'll have to go pick up their lunch when they're hungry, and you'll be thinking, but I'm not being an engineer. I'm not learning about engineering. But you will. You just have to put in a little time in the beginning and show them you're part of the team, you know, and then they go, call that guy back or that girl back. They were good. They fit in. And once you fit in, you'll get a chance to, you know, record a guitar, you know, because the engineer has to go to the doctor. And so they'll go, hey, I know you can do this. Record the guitar player. I'll be back in an hour. And it seems slow, and it can take a year. It can take 5 years, you know. But you have to, if you have the passion, the time goes by, and you're enjoying what you do. And what do they always say? You know, find something you like to do, and then figure out how to get paid for doing it, and then you'll never work a day in your life.